What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Representing the Resin. My name is Jameson Wellborn, and today we are joined by Ross and Will of Iron Roots Cannabis. Ross, Will, thank you so much for coming.
Appreciate you having us.
Absolutely, man. So I got to connect with Ross at Ego Clash, and we actually got to sit across from the table from each other judging, and it was quite an experience. That was my first Ego. Was that yours?
Oh yeah, yep. So it was really good time, crazy experience, fast trip. It's a good time.
Absolutely. So you guys are clearly doing something right to get the invite to Ego. I want to dive into a number of different projects that you're working on, but before we do that, we want to start at the beginning and learn a little bit more about you two. So Will, why don't we start with you? Tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from and where you grew up.
All right. So I grew up kind of all over Michigan, but primarily in the Clarkston area, Metro Detroit. And just started smoking cannabis at kind of a younger age, like about 14, just biking with my buddies. And I was super into snowboarding, biking, skateboarding. So it kind of just fell in place. And just spent most of my time. We had a local mountain, Pine Knob. Spent like every day in the winter there, and every day in the summer I was out on the bike. So
what was school like for you growing up?
School was good. I got pretty good grades. That's kind of how I kept my parents happy, because I was getting into trouble here and there outside of school, and that was kind of the way to do it. But school went well for me. I was caught with weed in school in like 12th grade, so that kind of slowed things down and was like a rough little spout. But other than that, school was great.
So talk to me a little bit about your first experiences with cannabis. Like, were you aware of it for a long time before you first tried it, or did you become aware of it and try it, almost at the same time?
My knowledge of it went as far as like hearing about it in music and movies and stuff like that. But I'd say one of my like really good friends, he didn't tell me at first that he was smoking, and he kind of opened up to me about it like 2 months after he had tried it. And at first I was just like, whoa, man, like what the heck? Why are you doing that stuff? And then, it wasn't too long before he convinced me to give it a shot, and, it just spiraled out from there. And I'm still really good friends with him, and we're both still consuming.
So what happened in high school when you got caught? Like, did that turn into quite a big issue, or
It was a big issue, I guess, with my parents. There was a lot of upset. My parents both like have never really smoked weed, and just didn't approve of it pretty much up until I went to college. Still didn't approve of it. And so that kind of caused some issues. I had to regain some trust, but on the plus side, it really opened up a lot of friendships and experiencing new things. Like, it really led me into kind of, I guess, meeting the friends that I started seeing live music with, and just doing all the things that I really look back on and like enjoy about high school. So I think it had a big influence on all that.
For sure. There's definitely a trade-off there for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So where was your head coming out of high school? Did you know what you want to do, or were you kind of lost and looking around? Like, what was your next move?
I think I was just so focused on like having fun, and my parents really wanted me to go to school. So I had some buddies that all knew what they wanted to do, and they were going to school. So I was like, hey, I'll go with you guys, make my parents happy, and was still kind of just focused on having fun. I ended up pursuing an environmental science degree just because I had taken an AP environmental science class in high school, kind of because my mom really wanted me to, again, just trying to make her happy. And that's just kind of where it led me. And I figured, why not just give it a shot, and ended up, finishing that, getting the degree, and was still kind of hooked on the cannabis. So
Are you were you moving it around in university? Were you just using it? Was it still present? Was it something that took a back seat? Like, what was that like during university?
Nothing crazy. Like we didn't really have I mean, until I met Ross here, we didn't really have like too many sources up here. We were really into dabbing. That's like, so when I got caught in high school, I was put on what's called youth assistance because I wasn't old enough to be put on probation. So it was basically like an in-school kind of year-long program where I was drug tested and stuff like that. And while I was in that program, dabs kind of came around with my friends. So the first thing I did after I hadn't smoked in like 14 months was take a dab, and I was just like, holy shit. And it just got me so high. So then it was just like pretty much strictly dabs from there, especially living at home, just easier to conceal. And
so you just smoking shatter at that point?
Yeah, exactly. Just BHO, shatter, like the butter and crumble. So then that's kind of what leads me to, I wasn't really moving anything crazy, but like I'd go downstate and pick up an ounce just for like me and my buddies in the dorms to all kind of throw down on and split. Like I wasn't really selling anything,
For sure, man. There's just kind of like, helping friends out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we'd all just pitch in. Sometimes somebody would go down and they'd be like, hey, I'm going to be downstate, and
how unique was that dab culture? Like, were you your own unique silo, or was that pretty big amongst your age group at the time?
It was kind of emerging. We had like a solid crew of like 15 or so kids in our school that were all caught on to the dabbing. Like everyone had their rig and we would link up for sessions, and especially in school or once we got to college, it was pretty prevalent. We met a lot of kids from just all over that were same thing. They experienced the dabs coming around their school, and everyone turning from the flower to the dabs.
Just ripping hot tie nails.
Yep, the red hot glowies.
Yeah.
That's what it was for a while, man. It was just the red hot glowies. The first time I ripped a dab with a carb cap, I was just like blown away.
It's like magic.
Yeah, exactly. My buddy showed me it, and I was like, I didn't even think like it could taste like this,
100%. So were you able to finish your environmental science degree?
Yep, I did complete that.
Awesome. So I mean, that must have felt good. What was the plan after that?
I actually went and installed solar for a short amount of time. I did some solar installation, and then just got drawn back up to the cannabis stuff. Was doing it for a while, and actually the pandemic hit, so it kind of slowed down a bit, and I had always, wanted to get back into that anyway. So I was like, this is the perfect time to do it.
The pandemic. So when did you first connect with Ross?
So when I first connected with Ross, it was 2015. It was my second year of school, and met him actually just through a friend of a friend. I had known him for a while, but this is when we really connected. We had just been acquaintances. I knew a couple of his friends. He knew a couple of mine. And somebody just mentioned that he needed help with a few things around the garden, and it just kind of took off from there. I helped him once, and it just kept helping like every day for a bit.
Was that your first experience in a garden, or had you been around cannabis plants before?
I had been, but nothing to that scale. I'd been in a couple like little 4-lighters and stuff like that, but it was just a whole new world for me. Extremely exciting. Like it didn't even really feel like work. I was just there to soak it all in and just enjoy it.
Maybe it's changed a little bit now, but
yeah, but it's still the same, man. It's still enjoyable.
Yeah, 100%. Ross,
I was like a kid in a candy shop, man. I was just like, holy hell! I'd always just fell in love with smoking weed and dabs, and then just being involved with the whole process of like creating that. The whole thing blew me away.
Yeah. Did you have like a desire as you were consuming to get closer to the plant, or was it more like an opportunity came about and then you got close to the plant and realized how much you got from it?
I was around it. I had a couple buddies doing the small gardens, and I think something just clicked in the big garden. For some reason, I thought in my head that I couldn't do it or couldn't really be too involved. And I don't know, something just really clicked out there with Ross.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So Ross, I wanna turn it over to you. It was really cool, like I said earlier, to connect with you at Ego, and I definitely knew you were somebody that I wanted to try and pull onto the show. So, why don't we, let's start at the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
So grew up in Holland, Michigan. Went to West Ottawa High School, and right outside of high school, actually was going to go to college. Went to GRCC for a year to get into their culinary program there in Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
And then right after that, I got put on a waiting list actually to get into the program, and ended up getting some side work from some friends at a grow shop down in Holland. And then basically there was a glass blowing studio right next door to it. So I actually started blowing glass for 2 or 3 years, like right outside of high school. So started blowing glass, making pipes, doing the festy scene, traveling, doing all that sort of thing.
All right. There's too much. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's take it way back.
Yeah.
Let's go back. What was school like for you? Because you're super interesting. You're into the culinary scene. I can tell. Like, what was early days Ross like in school?
Oh man, shoot, running around. I was pretty good in school, so got decent grades. Parents and I got along great. Didn't get along on the weed topic. So
how early
through high school, I would say.
How early did cannabis come into your life?
Oh, I probably started smoking the beginning of 9th grade. So it was probably 15. Me and my buddy Nick Bedreau, I don't know if he's watching, but we went to a buddy's place. We're trying to buy a bag. We were buying a dime bag, and all of a sudden it's time to pay for it. And Nick dropped the $10 down the seat crack, and can't find the $10. And we ended up getting this little bag of some shake that, when I started smoking weed in Holland, it really wasn't great weed. Like we were getting a lot of, actual brick weed that, that was like the first year or so. And then, a year or two later, we were starting to get some Cali stuff that was shipped in and whatnot that was getting better and that sort of thing. And
was it immediate for you? Like after your first experience, were you immediately drawn back to it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was around a couple people that just like a couple dudes in high school that were, selling it too and making some money off of it. And I was intrigued on, the side cash people were making while they were doing it. So, I don't know, the whole thing, like it was just a whole side culture that, I played baseball heavily through school. And, there was a lot of people on the team that were smoking too, but for the most part, the kids I was hanging out with outside of school weren't on my team. And that was good. Like it was nice to have something different. It was a completely different vibe. I still, played sports super hard through high school and that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. It right from the beginning, it clicked. So we were back at this park called Winstrom Park, smoking at a little smoking tree that we all got our names carved into. I'm sure if I'm back there now, it'd still be carved in there. Got chased out of there by cops so many times we can't even count. I don't know. It was a good time, man. It was, I don't know. Thinking back on it, it was, yeah, some of the best times, honestly.
What were some of the names of the strains that you can first remember those Cali packs coming through?
Ooh. Well, I mean, Blue Dream, Master Kush, just like, Afghan Kush, White Widow. God, what were some of the old school ones? I had a buddy, just like one of my really good buddies, that for the most part, he was getting 4 strains. It was like Purple Diesel, Master Kush, and Blue Dream. There's one other one, Green Crack. That's pretty much it. That's what we were smoking pretty much all the way through high school. But his brother is actually the first person that brought hash around to us, actually, too, from Cali. So his brother graduated like probably 5 or 6 years before us, moved out to California, was there for 4 or 5 years, and then came back with a you know, hippie, like a big yellow V-dub bus, and the back seat packed full of hash and whatnot. And that was great. Like, we were actually, some of the only kids in town that were smoking hash off a, first time I was smoking hash, it was off a pin. Like, it was, I don't know, it was good shit. So that old school hash flavor that you just don't get off of, new school dabs.
100%. It's a taste that some people are really drawn to, and then some people could leave and take.
Oh, but yeah, I'm happy with where we're at right now, but
100%. So coming out of high school, you took a look at university. What were you considering taking in university?
Well, right off the bat, food in general just intrigued me. So I was an artsy guy in high school. Was good in like other classes and whatnot too, but that's what intrigued me for the most part.
Any type of art?
Yeah, no, any type of, say that again?
Any type of art specifically that you were drawn to while you were in high school?
I mean, in high school it was a lot of pottery. So as far as different classes, some woods classes and that sort of thing, just hands-on stuff. I really didn't matter, stuff to come back to after smoking a doobie at lunch or something like that. And I don't know. So, but from a young age, I always was cooking. My mom's got so many stories of me just making coming home and, I'm 6 years old and making a mess, making pancakes at noon or something. I don't know, all sorts of stuff. So I knew when my parents were like, all right, what do you want to do? I was like, all right, well, cooking something I definitely can do. It's something I could see myself getting into in a practical matter, like at that point, without, weed being a career path that people were, diving down at out of high school and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, so I did that.
Where did you end up? Where did you end up going to school for that?
So that was in Grand Rapids. It's called Grand Rapids. It's just community college in Grand Rapids. It's got just a good culinary program. And I actually just did prereqs for a year. So I guess that's right when I got my med card. So right out of high school, right when I turned 18, I was like, yep, going to the doctor, get my med card. So got my med card, I'm pretty sure the first couple people I was even buying weed from were people I was hitting up off of Craigslist or something like that. But just right when the weed, right when medical started, or at least when I got into it, that was huge. Like, so many people were just posting, overages on Craigslist or whatever. And I don't know if that's still a thing, but so I started buying weed from this guy that would drive up from Muskegon or something like that a couple times a week, and just selling a smaller amount, making some side cash and that sort of thing, going to school, having a good time. I was living with my brother, one of my best friends. It was a good time. And then from there, just went through a year at that program and got put on a waiting list, and was just like, all right, so what am I going to do here? And I think, 4 or 5 months went by, and I ended up finding just a couple buddies that were working at a growing shop down in Holland. And there was a little glass studio right next door. And somehow I convinced my mom to get me an apprenticeship. I think it was like $1,500 or something like that. And I was like, I got to do this. This is what I really want to do. I can make some money doing this. So I dove down the glass blowing path for a couple of years. Still have the torch. Still got everything. I mean, when I met my fiance now, I was at Wakarusa Music Festival with 2 cases of glass pipes in my hands, just selling $20 glass pipes to whoever wanted them. So it was that was truly like just some of the best times. I got to get that thing set back up, but yeah, from there it took me up to I basically met a girl, who I'm getting married to next year now. And she took me up way up to the UP, and she was going to school up there, and I was like, all right, I'm not staying in Grand Rapids or Holland. Like, heck yeah, I'll go to the UP. And so, yeah, that's where we are now. And yeah, we were just blessed with, God, just to go way back, like the first grow that we had, I was staying with Lauren. And basically, I don't know how I convinced her, but I was like, yo, I can buy 4 lights on Craigslist right now for $400. Like the big hooded, just single-ended hoods, with the ballasts that have 20-foot cables and all sorts of crap. And I was just like, yeah, like we can throw 4 of these up in our bedroom if we move into the little closet area. And somehow she was like, all right, yeah, let's do it.
I see why you married her.
Yeah, the trooper that she is, like, holy shit. Yeah, so I don't know how many plants we had in there. I wasn't a caregiver at that time. I think we had probably 20 plants or something going. But luckily we were around a good group of friends that has, from the beginning helped us out tremendously with good genetics. So a couple people in Michigan, Uper Crew and the Grow Father. I did a collaboration with the Grow Father like a month or so back. But yeah, just super good buddies of ours that have been there since day one. And when we finally had just even a little bedroom to set up, they were like, all right, yeah, let's set you up. I think the first clones that we were growing were like, it was Gorilla Glue and Ace of Spades. So the Ace of Spades, who was that from? It was TGA. Yeah, TGA Genetics. But
how are you cultivating?
Just in soil. So organically. So right off the bat, the Grow Father, the guy that runs that page, he's an all organic grower. So he hadn't taught me a ton like off the bat, but just, seeing what he's doing, smoking the weed that he was producing, like it was the best weed around. So like hands down, like around Lansing when he was going to school around there, that was the weed to get. So yeah, that just took me down the organic path. So I did that for a couple years and eventually switched to synthetics and now back to organics. But yeah. So
what, like, take me through that evolution as a caregiver. Like, did you wait a long time before you became one, or did you after that first?
So we pretty much did one rip in that room. Like actually did really well. So I think we did I think we got like 6.5 pounds or something off the first rip. We were like, holy shit, 6.5 fucking pounds. Like that's amazing. So ended up flipping it. And, before that, like I was, I got some startup cash by, moving packs to friends that I met at festivals and that sort of thing. And that, that's why we were able to start when we did. And, yeah, we had some clientele that were buying stuff from us. So it was sold right away. We were able to take the profit and put it right back into everything. So pretty much right after that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, just right after the first crop, I think we ended up starting to veg one more crop. And then I was driving just through the UP and ended up passing a building that just had a big for rent sign up front. I was like, holy shit. Like, this is a huge building. Like, let's go. This is, called the number and they're like, yeah, no, we're super cool with growing weed. Like, absolutely. Like, that's great. I was like, all right, man, like this just seems too easy. Like there's got to be something to it. And turns out there wasn't. So we were just blessed with a good space. And yeah, that's still one of our current locations right now. It's been done really well for us. So
that's really cool. Sometimes good things just happen. So talk to me about how your cultivation methodology has evolved over the years. Like I'm sure that there's been some changes from that first grow to how you're growing now.
So when we first started, organics was the mindset. That's where we wanted to be. But once we got into the new space and we had a good setup, I think we had, 25 lights going. No, probably not even that. We probably had a 12 lighter going, and that was huge for us at the time. And we got a couple good rips and we get a couple shitty ones, a couple good ones, a couple bad ones. So it just wasn't consistent, and user error.
Yeah, what were you struggling?
Just I guess consistency and yield and flower growth, that sort of thing. Yeah. So, wasn't necessarily diving down, the true path of like being a botanist, I guess. Didn't have the plant figured out, didn't know what the plant reactions were that, you can just walk into a room now and just be like, oh yeah, like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So it just wasn't coming naturally to me off the bat. And, it just took some time to work into that space. So, and I guess, we were successful running organics. So I shouldn't say that completely, but for the most part, it was just the consistency thing. And, to be completely honest, it was like seeing other growers that are close friends that are just rocking these rooms with salts, and it was just working. And it was just intriguing. So just the health that they were able to get, and like how they were leveling up as a grower, just because they weren't only worried about plant health the entire time. And again, that's just the skill of where I was at that point. So, and honestly, it was a good path. So it really helped things out. And just as of recently, did we switch back to organics. So we've been running salts for, 2 or 3 years now, a bunch of different brands, but, and I have no problem with them. So we've produced a lot of clean product, a lot of tested product that's, really good, clean stuff. I'm smoking every day. So, I don't necessarily have like a strong preference like between the two, but just as far as like, having a challenge and being able to, just actually learn about the plant and be able to figure those things out and become a better grower at this point. And, with the way things are right now, setting yourself aside from where, the herd is going. And I don't know, it was just a passion from ours from the start. So it seemed like the right time with just a new company that had just come out that we were really excited about. So we're basically running an organic soluble line we're running it through a drip system perfectly fine. Like it's really good stuff. So
is that Organics Alive?
It's not the Organics Alive. It's actually called Earthcraft.
Okay.
So I can tag them in the post and everything. But yeah, we've done really well with it. I've only had a couple crops, so I can't say too much yet, but it's very user friendly. It's gone, so far it's gone great. So
are you running in cocoa?
Yep. So our first run we just ran a Pro Mix, just a peat mix. So like everything's amended though. So we're running Soilscape amendments, just to kind of ease things by a little bit, and veg and that sort of thing. So I find it's just hard, and especially in cocoa, watering every day, trying to put organics into a pot that's not going to see the nutrients for a couple days. You know what I mean? So it hasn't been completely easy, but the learning curve in the product, and just how quickly we've been able to adapt to this line it's way more consistent than what we were using before. So
do you feel as though that's where we're headed, towards like a hybridization of models where we've got, what once were multiple different schools of thought kind of blended together to create the optimal system?
I think it's the only way that we can really go at this point, just with like, regulations. With just the more I started growing, the more I start seeing like the more water you put down the drain as runoff, and the more you start actually thinking about that stuff. And, you know, in the last couple of years, as the whole recreational scene has gotten bigger and bigger, our imprint's gotten bigger as well. And that's become public, and people are talking about it. And it's just a topic of conversation of how to, you know, make that somewhat better if we can. And there's not a lot of ways to do it. So, but, you know, there's certain things that we can do that can make a big impact if we do it on a bigger level. So, you know, in the long run, I think that's, like, if you ask Will, like, I'm just a freak about what goes into my body. So I'm just, you know, from hash to food to, you know, whatever, like I just care about that shit. I don't want my neighbors spraying weird shit in their lawn because it's getting in my lawn. Like, I don't know. That's just the way I am. So to switch back to organics, it just seemed right from the beginning. I don't know necessarily that it is the answer, but to me, it seems like it does make somewhat of an impact.
Absolutely. When did you guys start growing specifically for hash, or are you still producing both flower and hash?
Shoot, we started quite a while ago now. I don't really know though. 2018.
Yeah, I'd say
I want to say
just full devotion of the whole garden.
So before that, we were running some BHO and dabbling with that a little bit. And it was just, you know, we had smoked hash. It just wasn't like, I think the first couple people that were making hash in Michigan were, you know, Michigan Made Melts, obviously, and give a lot of credit to that guy. And another company that fell off pretty quickly called Harambe. I don't know if you've heard of them, but yeah, I don't know, that those were the first couple people that were making good hash, and all of a sudden, you know, it's out there and you see it and it's like, holy shit, this is just a way better product, like, without a doubt, like, at least to me, you know what I mean? So it just seemed right. It seemed easier. The process wasn't scary. We were like, all right, this is it. There's no, like, we were dedicating a lot of our resources towards concentrates in general. Just saw the market, I think, going more so that way, at least for us. Definitely we're still producing flower at that point, but as soon as we switched over to making hash, it was like all hash. That's it. So whole crops, like from day one, like, you know, the first crop we took down, I was actually didn't have the brand, like we didn't have Iron Roots yet, but I was washing stuff and basically working with another buddy, and he was helping me market it and that sort of thing. But yeah, we didn't really know, you know, a ton what we were doing, but he was coming up north with a trunk load full of all of his washing equipment and showing us a couple things. And to this day, that's been super beneficial. And, you know, it was a good relationship. And yeah, so that's kind of what got us, I guess, started. Was I think we went to a couple cannabis cups and, you know, saw like two different stands that were selling hash, and we were like, yeah, this is good shit. Like, everyone's, you know, their lines 30 people long. Like, why is this stuff so good? So started dabbling with smoking it, and from there it was just game on. Like, we're growing it, like, let's make it ourselves. So especially with where our location is too, like there's no one else anywhere near us that ever is doing any extracting. So I think from day one, if we could have found someone to even blast our product for us, we never would have gotten into doing that. Just as far as ease, because we were focused on growing at the time, but there's just never been anyone anywhere near us that's doing any of it. And obviously that's changed now, but yeah, it was just a lot different. So
did you have anybody showing you and guiding you as far as genetic selection goes, or did you have to take some lumps to learn some hard lessons along the way?
I think when we originally started, we had some stuff that, you know, you think is going to wash. It's super frosty and that sort of thing. And you're like, yeah, no, this is going to dump, but it doesn't. And yeah, I think it was just a gamble from day one. So we had a buddy that was like, yo, this is what people are going to start doing. You guys should we should wash your next crop. And we were like, all right, yeah, let's try it. And yeah, it wasn't really a genetic thing at that point. It was, for whatever reason, it was just all in from there. Like, we just froze a whole crop, and like the first crop we took down, we had no idea what we were doing. We didn't know how to handle it. Like, we were literally bucking buds with our hands. Like, it was like we had no idea what we were doing. Our yields were terrible. So I remember the first couple times we washed, like, I forget what it was. It was like a cookies and cream or something like that. And I was so confused. Like, why aren't we, like, this is literally producing nothing. Like, we're just throwing all of this away. And yeah, 2 or 3 months later, just after talking with a few people, they're like, yeah, you can't handle that stuff. You can't touch it at all. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So, it was one crop after another. So we weren't taking any contracts. It was just all personal material that was, and we had some wins too. Like, we went down, bought a bunch of seeds, luckily found some pretty big hitters, like right off the bat, that were washing really well. So definitely found some genetics that were, I don't know, I think we just got lucky with 4 or 5 strains right off the bat that kind of just like pumped our enthusiasm towards hash up even more. So we were like, all right, yeah, no, this is definitely doable. Like, people are loving this shit and this is yielding well. Like, let's go.
What were some of those packs?
So the modified banana from Skunk House. I had a couple of just some Seed Junkie genetic tester strains from the Cushman cross that he was doing that we ran for a year or so. God, I'm blanking on the original ones that we were washing.
I think Black Dog came pretty early on.
Yeah, Black Dog we've had in our arsenal for a while. So
and yeah, that was like a blessing that dumped a while, because
it's like a 10-year-old plant at this point.
What is the Black
Dog? Black Dog Kush. It's blueberry headband cross. Gosh, I'm gonna forget now. I'll look it up here a second. But we didn't find the pheno. Nugs for Days in Michigan. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a super big grower, super talented grower in Michigan. He found it through friends of friends. We got it in our garden. We've had it for 8 years now, 7-8 years. So
when did you connect with Will? Like, at what point in the timeline?
So I'd probably been growing I hadn't been in the new building for more than, I would say, 2 years. I bet you it was two years after I started growing. Will came into the picture. I bet you I started growing in 2013, like end of 2013, and Will came into the picture probably 2015-ish. So that was just right about the time where I was like, still doing everything yourself.
Still blasting BHO.
Yep. Needed a hand with everything. And I don't even know how we connected, but somehow I got him out there. I remember this funny scene where, I was like blasting oil and had Will in the other room, like pretty much standing behind a door. I was like, I don't know. We pretty much learned this whole thing from the ground up, dude. Like, it's been, Will's been the day one homie that's been out there before there was money. Like, literally, like, there's so many hours that this guy's clocked that he has never collected anything. Like, it's just been like a diehard friendship, business relationship from day one. It's kind of the thing where you're just like, all right, like, where's the hiccup gonna be? And they're just, it's just like, and it's just worked. And it like, and that's like, at this point, it's been, it's 2023 now. There's been a lot in between, but Will's, full on partner of Iron Roots. So there's no way I could do it without him. It's just like, there's no business without him. So it's just.
Will, did you ever dream that, in the first couple months or years Like
Not even close in the first couple months. No, I mean, I was just, a college kid that needed a gig to get some cash and just so happened to be blessed with an opportunity where I like loved what I was doing to get that side cash. And then it just, over the course of, a few years, it just escalated completely. And it really wasn't until I actually graduated and moved away for about 9 months or so that it wasn't even a thought of really a partnership or anything like that. And then we were just blessed with an opportunity. I was just up here visiting again, just needed some cash and was like, hey, work slowed down. I'm going to come up, hang out with you and Lo and just make some side cash. And, this COVID shit sucks. Like, might as well be working in the garden. And on my last night in town, our buddy came over and just randomly brought up the fact that he was moving out and looking for somebody to buy into his garden. And it was a garden that two of our really good buddies, one of them I've known since like 6th or 7th grade back in my hometown, like one of my best friends, they had built, and it just kind of fell into our lap. And I was like, you know what, like, let's make this official. I'm just going to move up. And
he ended up leaving the house. Our homie ended up leaving the house, and all of a sudden me and Will look at each other, and I was like, dude, we gotta fucking do this. And Will was like, yeah, no, we got it. We got it.
I was like, I've got some serious shit to figure out, but I think it wasn't even like 2 weeks before I was back up here, moving into an apartment, moving all my shit up, and trying to get into that garden and get it moving.
That's awesome, man. So, I mean, how long did it take you shadowing Ross till you felt confident with the plants?
Well, I mean, for the first couple years, it was just do this. And I did it and didn't really think about like, okay, well, I should collect like why I'm doing this and how it impacts my next move and how these tasks kind of all come together into one and learn the order of everything. And it wasn't really until, I don't know, I guess after a few years where it just kind of like was natural to me. But even moving up and like saying like, all right, I'm going to run this other garden. Like that was kind of a leap of faith for me too, because I was like, I don't know if I can really do this, but he proved to have taught me enough to, make it work.
That's very cool, man. I love that when, like, the relationship grows slowly and naturally like that, and it's all, proven out like that. It's super special to see, and those are the strongest ones.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing is it just started out as me, working for somebody that, I kind of knew and didn't consider myself like great friends with, and it's just grown into a, like, he's my best friend, like one of my best friends, like it's just grown into something way bigger than it ever started out as.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
The coolest part for me too now is I'm walking into, Will's garden and I'm like, holy fuck, dude. Like, damn, can you teach me how to do that? Like there's so much shit that, he does better than I do. And there's just I think a really good balanced relationship between, strengths and weaknesses.
But we both kind of benefit from having each other to bounce shit off and just have that extra set of eyes and
complementary skills.
Yeah, it works out.
There you go. Are you guys LED growers?
So we run both actually. Two different gardens in two different ways. One of them's LED, one's HPS.
Interesting.
Yep. So I took over that garden and they were just running HPSs and I wasn't ready to, I was already kind of investing in the garden itself and I was just going to run it and make it work. And that's what I learned on and got comfortable with. And I'm actually just in the process of, I'm kind of wrapping up, setting up another garden because just some differences led to us moving out of there with the landlord, and still just going to plan on running HPSs for now.
What kind of observations have you guys made, HPS versus LED, both from cultivation standpoint and resin production standpoints? Will, so I'll start with you.
So I don't know if it necessarily was the HPSs, but I did notice like a little more bulking, and kind of just finishing a little stronger. But the LEDs, I think, I don't know. I don't want to make a controversial statement right now, but it is really clean resin from the LEDs, and yeah, I don't know. Ross, what are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I, as far as what I like, flower yields and that sort of thing, like our HPS rooms kick our LED rooms ass. So it like hands down for whatever reason, the HPS rooms that we've run just have done better for us on that end. So on hash production, I don't know. I guess it just depends. If our environment's completely the same, and it's an equally as same quality run, I think they're pretty similar. A lot of people always ask, like, you get, better yield off LEDs compared to HPS or vice versa, and it's really hard for us to tell. So most of our strains do pretty similarly percent wise, and that sort of thing. You might be able to dive down like terpene profile.
You guys are running the same genetics in both those cultivation sites, right? Like, so
yeah, so it's like, both of us run the sites, and there's genetics that are swapping in between both sites all the time. So it's like it's all, yeah, I don't know, everything's really pretty similar for us.
I have noticed, like you did just mention, like the terpene profile, some of the same strains pulling like stronger notes of some of the
like
flavors within them.
Not saying like one's better than the other, but potential, like you could sometimes, I guess, have a slightly different like flavor than, I guess, I mean, like two different rooms, but it's hard for me to think that has to do with the light. But yeah, I don't know. So we did also just switch over to LED, year and a half ago. So it's not super new, but it's still relatively new to me as far as just
versus
running
like
in general.
7 years of experience with the HPSs and
yeah, I don't think, like, commercially wise, like, if we do move forward to set something up, I don't think that we would run HPS moving forward. I think just as far as like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I haven't really looked into it a ton, but you would think that just fire hazard, that sort of thing, cost of buying them off the bat is definitely, a little bit more, but it's getting really pretty competitive as far as pricing on LEDs, warranties that they're offering on some of these things. Like the companies in general for LEDs are getting super competitive, where I guess I don't necessarily see a ton of companies really putting a ton of effort into working on HPSs or new models, or you don't really see a ton, I guess, coming out on them as far as right now.
Yeah, I know. I think, I've talked to a few guys running rooms of both high pressure sodium and LED, and I know the LED rooms, they always like to run a little bit hotter.
Yep.
So I think that, getting the right VPD in the LED grow, looks a little bit different than what your high pressure room looks like. So
100%.
I think that understanding that and kind of dialing that in at the leaf is what it takes to play with those rooms. It's always tough when you're trying to run the same parameters in, two really different style.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to ask you about your lab. What's your setup look like? Are you washing in a brute? Are you washing in a stainless steel vessel?
We've got a pretty small lab. It's right next to one of our grows. It's just, as of recently, we got just a big 65-gallon stainless vessel. Love it. Yeah, honestly, pretty simple setup. So, um, I guess for
A lot
us,
of water filtration.
yeah, water quality has been my biggest thing since we started. Going back to kind of the roots on all that stuff, like, yeah, we just dove down, just trying to find the best way to produce the absolute cleanest water, medical grade water that we possibly can, because at this point we know our growing practices are clean. And to me, the only thing that could affect the product in a negative way, or a harsh way, or that sort of thing, could be the water. So we put a lot of money, a lot of effort into just a good water filtration setup. Just a little bit further than just like a regular RO or that sort of thing. Just ice maker, that sort of thing. Big chilling res.
Are
We
you
don't.
are you agnostic on your bags, or do you have a specific company that you like to utilize?
Right now we're using Resin Evolution. Um, they worked really well for us. I think we've used ice extraction in the past. I've had some issues with them. Not like with the company, but just with the bag. So we've had a couple sets of those, and issues with both sets, and they're just so expensive. And I think I was watching Connor's episode, and he was kind of touching on that too. It's yeah, the Resin Evolution bags, they work. The micron setup between bags, I've noticed, is a tiny bit different, like between companies, even like Brute or Resin Evolution, or not Brute. What's the Bolt? Bolt bags. Yep. So Bolt bags versus Resin Evolution versus ice extraction. I'm sure there's a bunch more, but those are the ones that we've tried. And it seems like you pull a little bit different scale of resin depending on which bags that you get. So I don't know if micron sizes are a little bit different between companies, or fabric sizes, or how that works. But yeah, I guess we're not super picky on what we're using. Just got to find how that bag works, and what the best scale is between different strains and cultivars. Like, or everything's all different for the most part for us. So in general, we're normally pulling, like for our rosin, we're pulling a 70 through 120 currently. And that seemed, all across the board throughout, most of our strains, that's pulling the best resin every time. So even for like when we're pulling full melt, it's the 90 through 120 on the bags that we're using right now. We're really not, like, if we get into 90 through the 159 or 160, it's just not nearly as clean. So, but yeah, we're open spinning for the most part. Definitely want to get in to definitely, like, we've used cubes in the past. I think if we move to a machine or something in the future, we'd probably use cubes again. But yeah, pretty simple setup. So I mean, I'd love to have a manual setup, but for the amount that we're running, and I don't know, it's nice to, generally I have a hand out there anyways. So it's just a easy, clean, we know it, it's good, it's worked. So it's concrete. But I think moving forward to like a commercial lab, we'd probably get something different. But
Like a commercial vessel.
yeah, or I mean, you can wash a lot in a 65 gallon. Just being able to work a system with one person is definitely super nice to have the ability to do that. And I think that's, for the most part, what having a manual system or a automatic system would do for us.
Do you have a preference on the way you're washing? Like, are you moving the material in a specific way?
I guess a certain speed, I'd more so say. It really depends what we're washing for too. If we're washing for melt or if we're washing for rosin. So when we're washing for melt, we run pretty short washes anyways. So I think in comparison to a lot, we don't have a ton of hash makers around us that we talk to a ton. But we're running like 5-minute washes, or on a full melt pull, we'll run like a 2-minute wash or even a 1-minute wash. Just a super gentle. We're still running ice in our bins, just not a ton. So there's still a little bit. But yeah, I guess as far as like motion and that sort of thing goes, not a ton, not a huge preference. So little dragging method.
Are you guys rosin smokers or melt smokers?
Primarily rosin myself, but
Yeah,
I think it's mostly just because of
just what we're producing.
Yeah, we'll pull the, I have like some personal melt, just kind of chilling. We'll pull the occasional personal melt, but just a lot more variety of the rosin is easily available.
Yeah,
generally.
It's a lot of what our clientele wants to. So I don't know if it's like this for everyone. I think there's a couple people in Michigan doing a really good job with melt, but we just don't sell a lot of it. So a lot of people that are buying it for the head, and yeah, I don't know. It's something I like. We pull a 90 bag every time we wash regardless. So it's, we're looking for the best resin that we can on every wash. Certain ones that hit a little harder than others, we'll pull aside and, ask people if they want it and that sort of thing, jar a couple jars, and that's about it as of right now. So
are you guys doing blending at all?
We did a blend for our Ego Clash entry, and that's really the only blend that we've done. So I think like our Ego Clash entry was kind of a gamble. So we got invited on Tuesday afternoon, the week of, and it was like 12:05 or something like that, and I was like, holy shit, Brandon just hit me up and we got the invite, dude. And both of our hearts just start racing. We're like, all right, dude, we got to figure this out. Like, we need plane tickets. Like, so I think like called my fiance. I was like, holy shit, we need plane tickets. We need hotels. Like, we got to figure this out. And she's like, what are you going to?
Mid wash, just like,
I'm like, Ego Clash. And she's like, well, what's Ego Clash? And I was like, it's, one of the most notorious hash events in the United States right now. And even in I know they've got a Barcelona event. Like, it's a huge opportunity. And, there's a lot of people that would love to be in that position. And yeah, it was really cool, but it was out of the, I don't know. It just happened all of a sudden. We were like, holy shit. We had just gotten done doing washes, and I look in the ice bin and we've got no ice. Look in the water bins, we've got no water. So we gotta, it takes, I don't know, 24 hours about before everything kind of reloads for the next day. And so we were washing on Wednesday, left. When did we leave? Thursday morning?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or no, so we must have ended up, no, did we go back Tuesday night? I think we went back Tuesday night, ended up washing Tuesday night, and going back Wednesday morning, getting everything jarred up. Pretty much didn't sleep for 2 days before we got there, and hopped on a plane, and yeah, that was it. So
it all fell into place though.
It was a good time. It was like the pressure was fun. It was just a fun part of it. But yeah, no, our melt entry, we were doing pheno hunt washes, so we really didn't have a ton of material to wash. I knew there was a couple strains that I really had my eye on that had some, more sandy type textured resin that really had some good flavor on them, and we just kind of took a gamble on the material that we had, and turns out it actually did really well. So we entered the lemon zest mixed with our GAT gas, which we didn't find the GAT gas actually, but that was a gifted cut to us. But each wash that we did basically was such a small amount that the 90U pulls that we had were like just enough. Like we were weighing this out, both looking over the scale like holy shit, is this even enough? Like literally,
Fingers crossed, just
like all of a sudden it's, you know, the scale hit 13 grams and we were like, let's go.
Yeah.
So that was it. We were all in. We had all of our eggs in one basket. We had no other options. It turned out to be really good. It was a good entry. So I think if we were to do it again, we're gonna be ready. So, but
it's the competitions are just getting. I love seeing them. They're popping up more and more, and like I mean, it's gonna be a wild competition circuit. Like I mean, Brandon sets the bar high with those invitations going out when they do. It's crazy.
It was ruthless too. As soon as you get there, like he puts, if you don't like, you know, if you don't know the setting and you don't know kind of, I mean, it's not a joke.
No,
but it's like, he's serious for sure.
Yeah.
But he's also a really nice guy.
Yeah.
He just like, yeah, he, you know, we're waiting in line there and all of a sudden he pokes his head out the little window at the entry shack and just starts like screaming. And he's basically just yelling like, that, you see that building right there? That upstairs is full of a bunch of fucking losers. And just like, you know, just starts going off. And I'm looking at, you know, Will and our buddy Joe and just like, holy shit, dude, like what did we get ourselves into here? But yeah, I don't know. It was an eye-opening event. It was really cool. So it was cool to be able to meet some people that we've been, you know, following and looking up to for years online. People that we were following before we even got into making hash. Just, you know, some serious inspiration there that we were sitting at the table with. That was, yeah, it was really cool. So
yeah, the energy in that room was very, very, very cool to many people. And it was incredible to see. Like I was originally supposed to judge rosin, and then I got put on the melt table and I was like, oh man, I'm like, I don't smoke melt like that. And I was a bit nervous, but then I got there and I was like, oh, the melt table is the grown-up table. Like I'm very excited to sit at this table.
Yep. Yeah, it, you know,
big respect to the rosin entries and the rosin smoker. I'm a rosin smoker myself, but it was very cool to partake, and it gave me like, just, you know, it was incredible to participate with that group of people in that judging. It was something that was really special to me for sure.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. Trying to explain it, I don't know, going in there, not really knowing anyone, it's super cool. Like the energy in there is unlike what I expected. So you think ego clash, like who, I don't know, who am I going to sit by, that sort of thing. But it's like you walk in that room, everyone's pretty much pulling a chair out for you, bringing you food, bringing you water. Like it's you know, some of the heaviest competition that we'll probably ever see.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like a group of people that just respect the shit out of each other. And yeah, for the most part, everyone's there for the same reasons. We're all trying to produce and put out the best quality shit that we can. And yeah, that's where you kind of, in my opinion, like just getting to those things. Like if you're a hash maker, like even if you're just into smoking it, like just getting out there, meeting those kinds of people, like it's just a huge networking realm that for someone like me, like I just get caught up being in my own world up here. You know, I have been doing the same thing. I live my life pretty much, you know, every 2 months at a time, every crop, you know, I'm washing every day. And yeah, just you get in that cycle, but you really got to reach out and connect and yeah, just engage with the people that are doing similar things to you, because you never know what you're going to find out there.
I get charged up, man. I get charged up from the community in those events. Like there's certain events that drain and there's certain events that charge. Like you'll never see me more drained than after MJ Biz. I'm fucking drained. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
talk. I need to be alone. Like
Yep.
and you need to reassess your shit and like realign your chakras and like cleanse and smudge and all that shit. Whereas like after Ego Clash or some, you know, Legends of Hash or, you know, a real culture event, you know, it's really like everything's very clear of like, okay, this is who I am. This is why I'm doing this. And these are the people that I align with, and being able to talk about your interests with other people is, I think, you know, with your peers is super important. So I want to see more of these events. I'm super stoked. I feel like it should be like, you know, soccer is for kids, where it's just like it's limitless. Like you can just run the circuit, and like if you're good enough, you'll just get all the way up to these, you know, these top tier events. But like you got to kind of run the circuit of, you know, rural league or school league and then city league and, you know, whatever it is. So I hope it to be one day that complicated where, you know, we got like an ESPN for Hash. I literally would love to see it there.
No, that would be sick. Yeah, there's I don't know, there's not really, there's a couple like Hash events in Michigan. I don't know that there's like a good Hash competition necessarily, but yeah, just doing anything like that, or even
for the community.
Doing something that I've thought about is doing some sort of like culinary Hash engagement type thing where you just, you know, that's what I love, eating really good food and smoking really good Hash. So put the two together, and that's like, yeah, couldn't have a better time for me. But yeah, maybe sometime in the future we'll do something like that. But
you make sure you let me know, because I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm into that. Do you guys do any post processing on your rosin? Like, are you jar curing anything or jar teching anything?
We definitely have in the past. We haven't for a while. So, yeah, for whatever reason, you know, right when we got into it, that was all that we were doing. So 2018, 2019, that's literally like the only thing that I mean, it was the only thing I was taught actually. But you look around to everyone else that was doing it at the time, and yeah, that's all we were seeing. And then all of a sudden it just hit like a brick wall. Like the only thing people wanted was cold cure. So we jumped into that. But it's really just what people want. So occasionally there's certain strains actually, I think, that really do better one way or the other. But that's just personal preference. If people generally want cold cure, that's what we'll stick to. So, but yeah, I see a lot of companies kind of diving back down, you know, the jam tech, and it's intriguing to me. Like I enjoy it. So it's fun to make, it's fun to mess with. It's different. I mean, it's no secret, like with food and that sort of thing, when you heat stuff up, it changes texture, changes taste, smell, that sort of thing. And I think that definitely happens a little bit with hash resin too. But
where do you guys stand on fresh press?
We haven't done fresh press in a while, honestly.
I'm not huge on it, just as far as
I think it's been nice here and there for like a personal jar, but it's also just hard to maintain that fresh press unless you're keeping it cold. And I guess for what we're doing, the majority of the hash that we're making, it would just kind of butter up, and at that point we'd want to just be cold curing it.
Yeah, I guess it depends too. Like, if people want fresh press, like, okay, do they want it in a gram or do they want it in a couple grams? Like, to me, if you got fresh press in just single grams, it, like, even to batter that up, like if you got it and you wanted to cure it on your own, like it's definitely doable, but to me, things batter up better in larger like quantities as far as our experience. So like, you know, just a massive jar of rosin cures up just amazing. Like it, you know, compared to just a single gram. And I guess it depends on jar size and that sort of thing, how much air is involved with it and whatnot. But yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing for me. It just doesn't have the same smell, taste, and that sort of thing if it's not done correctly, I guess.
I almost think that you have to pheno hunt for fresh press. Like you have to pheno hunt for the varietal that expresses well in fresh press in whatever characteristics or ways you're looking for, because there's so many that are involved in it. But it's just interesting to see the farther you move east, the less relevance. Like there's no fresh press in Canada, none.
Okay.
None there's none in the legal system, and there's none in the legacy. The legacy system, you know, the makers would take dabs of fresh press. Sometimes I remember pheno hunting multiple things and never even dabbing what came off the press because it just wasn't what we did. Wasn't until somebody showed us that we did that, we had to cure it out. And so you know, it's just super, super interesting to see different people's perspectives on, you know, what the consumer wants. Because in California, the consumer wants to see the clarity of the fresh press and then do it themselves. But, you know, my observations have been similar to yours, Ross, where, you know, you get a way better cold cure on a larger jar than you would off a gram. And, you know, yes, it definitely has to do with headspace, but, you know, you're not going to customize a jar for the proper headspace for 1 gram and then count on that seal to, you know, be there for all of them. So I wanted to ask you, being somebody who has grown with salts and organically, if you've ever been able to make any observations as far as flavor profiles or physical resin characteristics correlating between the two.
God, man, I think we really are now. So as far as, because before I was just started in organics, hadn't grown in salts before. There was certain lines I think that we were using that produced better resin than the latest one that we ran for salts. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to tell completely, but these last couple runs have put like, and especially like the drop that we're putting out this coming week or next week. Yeah, the flavor, the terps, everything on it are amazing. I don't know completely if that's up to the, you know, what's going into it, but I would assume so. So I don't know. I don't know. The other thing is too, I don't know if things happened during COVID, but there was just like some quality control stuff that I got kind of concerned about with a couple different lines that we were using. And it just, I mean, you can definitely have the same issues with organics too. So you got to be, you just got to be careful where you're getting your nutrients and how much they're testing it. And I don't know if you've got good customer service with a bigger line and, you know, it's not something you're failing a test for or something like that. If it's just like a salt that's clumping up, or I don't know, you can definitely work around that sort of stuff. But yeah, I personally am just really enjoying just the organic path in general. It just feels better. Like I don't know. I think that our plant, like quite literally, like I switched from veg that I did with salts, switched over to organics as I flipped it, or flipped the room. And that was like one of the best crops I had in a year or so. Like it just absolutely banged out. And the resin was amazing. Yeah, everything just turned out super stellar. And like I said, this is only our second run with it. So it's still super fresh. We just put out like our Eagle Clash entry and that sort of thing was run with organics. So we'll see where it goes. I can't say for sure that we're gonna stay on it forever, but I think like in general, as far as just learning that path, like I'll always, like, especially as nutrients adapt and companies start adapting a little bit more and making programs that are, you know, just somewhat, I guess, easier offhand and off the bat. Yeah, I think organics is definitely going to be kind of the, like, you can see it in Michigan. There's a ton of growers moving over to just an organic soluble line or something, you know, like you were saying, like a hybrid or something like that, where they're running organic amendments, just even for price sake. Like, organic amendments are super cheap. And like we were saying, you definitely have to be careful where you're sourcing them from, but yeah, just to be able to amend and get you through, you know, a 2-3 week veg cycle without pretty much any inputs whatsoever. Like, we were paying a ton of money to run salts. They're definitely in the later years, like certain lines were getting cheaper and cheaper and that sort of thing. But yeah, still, I think we're going to be able to put out like the price per gram that we're producing is going to be cheaper off organics in the long run, in my opinion, than it would be run off of salts. So that's another push. So I really think once we're doing it right, and once we're not wasting resources on, you know, just not necessarily knowing exactly what we're doing, then I really think we'll be able to dial things in to be super obtainable.
Is Iron Roots strictly single source, or do they also work with other farms?
We've worked with a couple other farms. So just as of recently, we stopped doing contracts, I don't know, 2 years ago, probably 2-3 years ago, because we just were producing enough. So our gardens were keeping up with what we could get rid of. Didn't want to overdo things. Contracts are tough sometimes, so it's tough working with different growers. The growers we were working with were best friends, or not best friends, but, you know, really good friends. And I don't like debts and that sort of thing. You know what I mean? It's taking on a ton of product from close people that, yeah, it just didn't, it worked. It does work. But when we were first doing it off the bat, it was just like, oh yeah, like there, you know, all these companies are doing contracts. Like, you know, we could probably make some extra cash by doing that. And that was just for the wrong reason. You know what I mean? So we after probably a year or so, we stopped doing them. Certain growers were just giving us, you know, the same 3-4 strains that were dumpers multiple times in a row, and it just, consistency kind of thing was just lacking and that sort of thing. So went back to single source, and then yeah, just as of recent last 4 or 5 months, good buddy of mine, one of the guys that kind of got me into growing, reached out and yeah, just it was switching over to a different processor, and was basically looking for someone to work with that was like-minded. I was like, yeah, let's give it a go. So it went really well, and we'll be working with him in the future. But as far as like opening up contracts, I think for just like an open book, I don't think we'll ever do that. So
is there a story or a reason for the name Iron Roots?
Kind of location. So we're in Iron Country, as far as like where we are. So the UP is known for copper and iron and that sort of thing. So that's kind of, God, I think we were just sitting in a room getting high, and like it was just, we were just rattling off,
shooting
yeah,
ideas.
you know, rattling off names, and all of a sudden I was like Iron Roots, and yeah, just like it stuck. Yeah,
I think it's a great name.
So, and then
yeah, go
just
ahead.
a good buddy of mine, that Lauren went to school with, my fiance went to school with up here, ended up doing our graphic design. That was just another thing where we got like 5 or 6, 7 different designs, and, you know, didn't like any of them. And a month or so later, he ended up sending me like a Hail Mary and was like, hey, like, just been kind of chipping away at this and working on this one. Like, just let me know if you like it. If not, no worries. And I was like, holy shit, dude, that's the one. Like, that's it. So that was cool too.
That's very cool. It's nice when they work out like that. So I wanted to ask you, it sounds like Michigan's been home Michigan's been home your whole life, but how do you think Michigan did overall with cannabis legalization, like as compared to maybe some of your friends in other states?
Oh man. I mean, this year's been tough. So I think for everyone, but I think the open book policy, like just, as many licenses as people want is fair. So I don't, if that's kind of what we're diving down as far as what you're talking about, but just as far as like the whole system, how it's regulated, testing, there's definitely a lot that needs work. So I don't know how testing can ever be concrete enough to tell you if someone's remediating product or, like what can you actually trust at dispensaries? Like, not saying that you can't trust things there, but there's just a lot out there that people have had issues with. And I don't know, just being a grower, there's a lot that, that people do, or could do. And it's just, for me, I guess that's like the biggest thing is the regulation and how to keep that safe and how to keep the people that are just in it for the money from hurting people actually on the market that are just spending their hard-earned cash on stuff that I don't know. A lot of people, that's their only option. So I was talking like with my dad over the weekend. We were down there for New Year's, or I forget who I was talking to down there about it, but basically just like, in the future, there's going to be certain generations that are going to grow up with only buying weed at dispensaries. It's not how we work. It's not how our whole community works really right now, but that's going to, 10 years, that's every generation. Like, they're not going to be buying weed from their buddy in high school. And that's just going to be completely different. And I think that's what's going to transition people over to that side. And if for us, that's where we want to be. I love what we're doing right now. I think it's great. We feel like we're doing exactly what we want to be doing. I just want, I would never want to switch over if our market's not over there. So it's just like that's really the issue for us right now is you look at the rec market in Michigan. I think it's ready for it. Like, I think it's about there. But the last thing I want to do is bring Iron Roots to a commercial level. And, we're never going to be the company that's got 100,000 square foot. We're never, it's never going to be that. We don't have that kind of money. I don't want to, Will and I want to build what's ours and, put in what we have and, kind of leapfrog it like we've been doing for 8 years now. So just, one crop after another, just putting it back into it. And for us, that's really what's made it successful is not having just like this big overhead of an investment or something that's gone into it. It's all been personal cash and that sort of thing. I think for the most part, most caregivers are in the same boat, but on the commercial side of things, it's way different. But
well, as you looking, I'm sure you've examined transitioning to the commercial side and to the away from caregiver and to rec side. Is access to capital an issue? Or is that absolutely not an issue and the transition is just simply your choice on waiting for the consumership to move over to the rec?
Capital is not necessarily an issue. I just think, it's the combination of personal stuff, just, I guess a couple years ago, I thought we were ready for it. And I'm glad that we didn't get into it when we originally started kind of diving down that path. So just the amount that we've grown as a company, grown together, I've grown I'm 28, Will's 26, 27. I don't know. We've got a lot of time. Not saying that there's a lot of time. I think there is a window. So I think there's room for opportunity to get in on the ground level. Obviously it's not necessarily the ground level anymore, but as far as the rosin market goes, I think there's a couple commercial companies that are looked at and being that are doing a good job. So Archive, I think, is doing a pretty good job. There's a couple that are as of recently coming out that I think are doing a great job. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a timing thing, both personally and for the company, just figuring out what's best. I guess it's a hard jump for me too. So I guess a lot of people could say the other way around, but yeah, I don't know. It's just different. So it's taken on, I guess, more than what I just would never want to take on more than what we can handle in that aspect. So
shows maturity, man. I mean, I think that I saw thousands of people and thousands of examples of people taking on more than they could handle in the Canadian space when legalization happened. And I can tell you that, you know, the very few of them that were participating from the beginning, from the legacy, wish that they had stayed and watched the chaos that would ensue. Because, you know, first guy through the door always gets shot, you know?
Yeah.
Oh.
And we've got some really close friends that are like absolute, they're crushing it. So I don't know if you follow them, but Northwoods, I think their page online is Northwoods 3.0. Yeah, they're Uper guys just like us. They're some of our best friends that we were talking to earlier. They're the guys that we took over a spot from because they were jumping into the commercial field. And it's crazy, man. Like walking through those facilities, like it's jaw dropping. Like
what has their been like compared to, you know, what's their feedback like?
Is as far as like what the market's like, or
yeah, sort of thing? You know, they come on over, the water's warm, this is great over here, and we enjoy it.
Yeah, I think they're really happy with what they're doing.
Awesome.
Obviously they were a new company as of like they came online last year, so I don't think there's a harder way to build a stronger company than to make it through a year where things are that tough.
Yeah.
So, and I think they're like, if you look at their page and follow along with what they're doing, like these guys are our age, if not younger, and they are like their facility is just blown out. Like it is, the amount of pressure that they're putting on as far as like being on that scale is intense. Like they're doing a great job. So yeah, it's that, like that's the other thing. So it's definitely super two-sided, like that you walk through those places, and yeah, that's where we want to be. I think, yeah, like my fiance wants us there. She wants, you know, just a little bit more concrete stability as far as a business goes, like that sort of thing. Like that's in general, I think what we're all working for, kind of as we build. So
yeah,
absolutely. So I mean, what's on the horizon this year for Iron Roots? Like, are you expanding? Are you pheno hunting? Like, what are you guys working on this year?
Well, so the garden that we were recently in was quite a bit bigger than the one I'm building out now. So we're kind of downsizing a little bit and really just focusing on heavy pheno hunts and just kind of dialing in the craft of it all. Just sharpening the axe, getting ready to, if we do want to make that transition, learning how to run these new nutrients that we're kind of adjusting to, getting really comfortable with the LEDs if that's what we want to move forward with. And yeah, just kind of dialing it all in. And
yeah, so Will's finishing up like building out a super sick little grow. But basically as we moved out of the old one, got into this new one, it's kind of just a little stepping stone. So that's the commercial talk is really like, we've been I swear we've been chasing our tail as far as like catching up. It feels like for years. I don't know if other growers are in the same boat as us, but I swear we're just out working around the clock to like, just make the next step happen. And it just seems like it keeps going. Like, and it just does keep going. And it's, I think that happens like as things grow a little bit, but yeah, as we were downsizing a little bit, or just like in that one grow, like it's just, and the other thing too is just automating more. So we've got certain things that are going on dozers and that sort of thing. Just gives us more time to put more energy and thought into kind of that next step and where we want to be in the next couple of years. But just currently in these grows, it's finding that next pheno. So every run, just like my whole garden's dedicated, like the entire garden's dedicated to pheno hunts. And we've got one garden that's kind of just a production runner that puts out flavors and kind of cranks back and forth. So
are you holding everything back in veg, like copied, or are you just hoping for a re-veg?
We generally copy everything, so which is tough. Definitely we've had some heartbreak, some losses, like just
we all have, bro.
It sucks, but it's kind of the name of the game. Yeah, I don't know. That's the other thing, like where expansion comes back into the play, like why you want to get to that next level. It's because you can only, technically you can only do so much here. So, and not saying there's not some cowboy action going like with a lot of caregivers in Michigan and that sort of thing. But, the last thing I want to do is take a step back and get ourselves into a pickle before we are able to jump forward into the next step. So yeah, I don't know, just figuring out how to run multiple pheno hunts just, becomes difficult at a certain plant count. So, but yeah, just really this year is about, I feel like, certain years we were hunting down stuff that we thought were winners. And now it's like, okay, now that we've seen a ton of stuff out there that, is a winner. Certain ones most definitely aren't. So just being able to cut the cord on certain ones that you've been running for a while and that don't necessarily deserve to be there, and make room for the next one that hopefully you're going to find. But
building out your team, building out your roster.
Yep. It's back and forth though, man. Like the last hunt that we did, we found the lemon zest, and that was great. But that was one little plant out of a room of 50 that just, there was a couple other phenos that did pretty well, but that was the standout. So you get one that you run again, and so it's in the long run, it's worth it. But it takes time. It takes time to find that certain pheno and, to put those flavors on the menu, to get your menus up to, 10, 15, 20 plus flavors at a time. Just let alone in the size rooms that we're growing. And it's tough to put out menus with, like, we're running pretty much different plants for each, or different strains for each plant for the most part. So
that's a lot of work, man. That's admirable. I mean, clearly you think like getting that unique genetic library is really what's crucial to kind of differentiate yourself in the market you're in.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really do think so. I mean, it comes to a point where people know your product, they know that they can trust it, and, that it's good stuff, and that you're putting out consistent work and that sort of thing. And then after that, I've kind of always told people, like, I think the future is just going to be single source, just because I don't see, me as a grower, the reason why I was doing single source, one was because of location, but two, it's like, if you're giving away, you're either paying a toll or you're giving away, a premium of your harvest. And for me, it just wasn't worth, like back when we first started, it was people were charging 30%. I was like, holy shit, 30% of all my work that we're doing all year round like you get it. It's like, just for washing it. And I was like, well, I can wash. Like, you know, why can't I do that? So like as we move forward, I see more companies and more grows, and especially like on a smaller scale, like we're doing their own work and falling into single source, especially as yeah, depending on where the market goes, but just as far as how much things cost and that sort of thing, it just makes sense.
Yeah, and it seems obvious, but also just being able to control all the inputs and how, you know, knowing how it was handled from start to finish is just huge.
Absolutely. Well, Will, I'll start with you. What advice do you have as we kind of wrap up here? What advice do you have for people looking to, you know, follow in your footsteps and become involved in the industry?
You know what? I'd say the biggest thing is just if there's any self-doubt, just overcome it and take that leap of faith. And, you know, you're going to fall, pick yourself up and just keep learning. You know, there's a lot to be, you know, we'll never stop learning. So just take it all in and yeah, just keep pushing.
It's good advice. Good advice. What about you, Ross?
Oh man, let's see. I think the biggest thing for me is don't be scared to put that guy on, or, you know, or take that, you know, if you see a lot of effort put out towards someone that's not really having a mutual relationship with you, you know, don't reciprocate. Like it, just with how Will and I has worked out, like it's crazy. Like I look up to him. Like I don't see him as an employee. Like it, you know, put that small guy on that's working his ass off and give them the credit that they deserve, because that's really what makes companies like ours. Like, you know, even on the smaller side of things, like we've got a couple other younger guys that are working for us right now that are just absolutely crushing it. And you know, we really couldn't do it without them. So every day they're there. You know, no matter, you got, like, you know how a grow runs, there's shit that's always going on that you need someone for, or just an extra hand to lift something or whatever. These guys are ready to jump at it. So yeah, don't be scared to put the small guy on, and just make sure people are giving what they're worth.
Dude, I think that's some awesome advice. Some of the best advice given on this show, in my opinion. What, Will, I'll start with you. Where's the best place for people to get in touch with you if they're watching the show and they want to reach out?
So the Instagram is #knuckles.
There you go.
It's a good one.
And Ross, what about yourself? What's the best way to get in touch with you if somebody's watching?
You shoot me a DM. I'm pretty active on there. From there we can get in touch which way, depending on what you're thinking. So
at Iron Roots.
Yep, at Iron Roots Cannabis. Beautiful. So yeah, reach out anytime. So we're an open crew. We love talking about this stuff. So yeah, reach out.
It shows, man, and I mean, I really am going to be watching out for you guys. I can tell you got something special going on. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're back. You're invited back next year. We want to hear what you got up to. We want to hear about all
the big update,
all the pheno hunts. You know, that's really what we want.
Yeah, we'll have some new flavors to talk about for sure.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And cheers, everybody. Have a great night. Melting of the Heads, January 20th. Still some tickets left. Cheers.